Hi, my name is Chris Davila, and I am a landlord. I purchased some properties recently this year, at the beginning of this year, and it was a kind of a perfect storm of me going into landlording, because there was an opportunity to purchase some properties, and the person I knew, and they were wanting to get rid of these, and they were willing to do non-traditional financing. And so without that option, doing a non-traditional financing, I don't think I ever would have gotten into this. And so because they were willing to do that, I ended up becoming a landlord and was able to purchase 2 buildings, a duplex and a triplex. And that's where I am now. I've been working on those properties. And so I thought I'd spend some time telling you a little bit about what it's like being a landlord, and the things to consider in becoming a landlord. So just things that I've learned in these last 10 months or so. So I mentioned the financing part. The financing part was huge. It was really, I did not have the money. I did not have a large pot of money to purchase property. And so it really came down to relationships. I knew somebody who was wanting to get out of owning property. They had a property manager that was not good for them and was costing them a lot of money. And so they were just wanting to get out of owning these properties. And I had done some work in one of the units. And so we started having conversations about doing some non-traditional financing, and they were willing to do a contract for deed. And so what that allowed me to do was I didn't have to put down a 25% down payment for the property. Instead, I think I ended up putting like 10% down, and then on top of that, this with the financing. So with the contract for deed, basically I am paying the owner of the property. They are acting as the bank, and so we didn't have to go through credit checks. We didn't have to go through the bank and etc. And so we negotiated an interest rate and what I would pay every month, and they were satisfied with that. And and that's how the relationship began. But in terms of a contract for deed, it gives me the opportunity to be listed as the owner of the property. And if I don't make my payments, then the ownership goes back to the previous owner. But in terms of all legal paperwork, I am the owner of these properties. And another thing that I considered was what kind of properties so it worked out that these 2 were a duplex and a triplex, and they were right next door to each other. So a great location, easy to work on both properties. And I feel like owning a multiple unit building is way more profitable and gives you a lot more flexibility with securing your financial investment. So you can have one unit rented while the other one is being worked on. So you're still generating income, as opposed to a single family home, where if you have to work on it, and it's not rented, you're not generating any income at all. And so that, I like that idea. And it also gives me flexibility in how I rent those units. I can have a furnished unit, or I can have an unfurnished unit. I can do Section 8 housing. It gives me a lot of flexibility. Let's see, another thing I thought about was, I've spent a lot of time working in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I wanted to figure out a way how I instill those values into being a landlord. Oftentimes we hear, the only stories we hear about is, the landlords gouging, the tenants, and, a high rent, and not being flexible, especially at a time now where there's very, very few rentals available. Landlords can really kind of put their price on units as high as they want, and and it becomes really difficult for people who struggle financially to get housing. And so one of the things I've done with my own business plan to incorporate more equitable practices is to have Section 8 housing as part of my my units. And so so one of the units I have is Section 8, and the rent is substantially lower than the other units. But as a landlord, it gives me secured, rent every month, because that's a guaranteed coming from the county. And then what I've also done is, in another unit, I created that, or made another unit a furnished unit that I target traveling nurses, because I know that they are going to have higher income and they get travel vouchers, and they're also looking at 3-month leases. And so because of that, I can charge a higher rent, and then that kind of balances out overall for myself. I could have all of my units targeted for nurses and have them furnished and make all kinds of money from that. But I just don't think that's the right thing to do. And I think that I would become part of the problem with landlording if I did that. And so I'm trying to set a better example to be responsible as a landlord. Yeah, and then repairs and maintenance. So I do a lot of YouTubing and trying to figure out if I can get things done on my own, or if I have to hire somebody in. And it's really difficult to find somebody to come and do work on your property, especially very significant projects. So I do a lot of YouTubing and just jump in and try to figure out the best that I can. And I try to respond to my tenants as quickly as possible. I think that as a landlord, I feel like I'm in a service position where I need to provide a quality service to the tenants who are renting from me. And I don't think that landlords think like that all the time. And so I want to respond right away if the doors aren't closing correctly, or the heat's not working, the thermostat's not working, whatever it is. I want to respond right away. And I think that that makes a much better relationship, tenant-landlord relationship. It helps secure my investment, because I think they're more likely to take care of the property, and they have a place that they feel safe and secure in. And so I think that's those are the things that I consider or think about a lot going into becoming a landlord, and the things that I've learned since I've been a landlord. So yeah, that's kind of that's kind of where I am right now, and I'm still learning. So